me see what's out there.
Hello there, and welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Live, a entertainment live stream and podcast that for the past several weeks has been focused on the limited series Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is available to watch on Disney+. Be warned, if you are a Star Wars fan, which I expect you are if you're here, but you have not yet seen Obi-Wan Kenobi, we will be discussing this in spoilerific form. So be warned if you haven't had a chance to catch that yet, because even though you know where they all end up anyway, we will be going into details that have been covered in this 6-part mini-series. So my name is Keith Isles. I am an independent filmmaker and lifelong enthusiast of cinema and television. And indeed, Star Wars has been a big part of fueling my passion for the craft and for the medium. So over the weeks, we've been looking at this, and I've had various guests on talking about this. Tonight, it's slightly different. We are actually going out as a live stream. So if you are out there watching this, welcome. And if you want to get involved in the live chat, please do put your thoughts or comments in, and I will make every effort to get to them. If you're new to the channel, then please do consider giving this video a like, subscribing, and if you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified as and when new content drops. And please, check out, we've got all sorts of things on this channel. If you're interested in movies and television, if you're interested in physical media as well, that's something that's covered a lot on this channel. I'm not alone tonight. Basically, if nobody makes any comments at all, then I know I will have plenty to talk about with my main guest for tonight. He is too an independent filmmaker, and we were co-hosts for 5 years on the Movie Heaven, Movie Hell podcast, which incidentally is available on all good podcasting apps. So check that out if you want to check out more of our ramblings after this. But it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show Simon Aitken. Hey, Simon.
Hey, Keith.
Thank you
for having me.
Nah, it's all right. You're always welcome. Here we go again, right? I think we had quite a lot of
yeah, that says it all.
Oh, there we go. It's a trap. Yes. Yes, we've discussed it. In fact, our very last ever episode of Movie Heaven, Movie Hell was indeed discussing Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
As you say,
leave on a low.
Yes,
yeah, don't leave on a high, leave on a low.
It certainly was. It's funny actually. I obviously I was going to just cover the 6 weeks that the series ran. I did have a bonus episode last week where I had John and Maria Jose Tenuto join me from the US, that are Star Wars radio drama experts and now published authors as well. So that was great. But I had quite a few people say, look, I want to come on, and I know you were one of them, Simon. I want to come on and chat about this. So the plan originally was to have a panel. But I know your other half, writer Antonia Maguire, who's also obviously a massive Star Wars fan as well. I know she couldn't make it, unfortunately, tonight. Hope she feels better soon. And a few shout outs, Paul Dunn and Liz Jordan from the Comic Crush channel and site. They were going to join us. They were on episode 1 and they were going to come back. Unfortunately, we weren't able to sort of make timings tie up for that. So, but I wanted to give them a shout out because they're very supportive to this channel. And you really should, if comic books and other movie related stuff as well is your bag, go and check out the Comic Crush online, on social media, on YouTube. And they do some really interesting things there. And sometimes they have really cool guests on as well. occasionally. No, but please go and check them out. I wanted to give them a shout out. Also, I'm sorry they couldn't be here. And I also want to give a shout out to someone that contributes every week to this, probably without realizing it. And that is my good friend and composer, Neil Myers, who actually does the theme music that I use for Let's See What's Out There. And he was going to join us to talk his views on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and particularly the use of music in it. But he's with family over in Italy at the moment, so couldn't make it. So I wanted to give him a special shout out as well. And also Dan Hadley from the Space Book may well be joining us later. I've had a few messages backwards and forwards. He said he's going to try and join the show at some point this evening. So I may well be hyperspacing another guest to the channel.
Don't get the two shows mixed up.
Exactly. Don't get the streams crossed, literally.
Is it not weird that I've just referred to Star Wars now as a show and not as a series of films?
I know. Well, that's the thing. Simon, I've talked a lot, as you can imagine, knowing me and having done podcasts together. I've talked a lot over the last 6 or 7 weeks about my feelings of this show. I'm generally positive about it, but I have also, been critical. I appreciate it's not beyond criticism, but you're the guest. So what I'd like to know really is, well, where you're sort of at with Star Wars in general, and then obviously what your thoughts were on the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So the floor is yours.
Where am I with Star Wars? It's a good question. It's really, how can I put this? My relationship with Star Wars is, I love the originals, and every series that comes up, they seem to want to mess with those films. They, detract from them, and some ways it pisses me off because the take Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's a story that didn't need to be told, really. It's just it was such a weird thing because they did a bit of New Hope with rescuing Princess Leia twice, and then they did Empire Strikes Back where they're being chased, and then they did Return of the Jedi where they have a duel at the end, and it was just like that you could have done so much more with the character. It just didn't need to be. They just can't seem to get away from the Skywalker saga. There's a bigger universe out there, much bigger. Obi-Wan could have gone on his own little adventure, or it could have been like an adventure with Luke as a young lad, and it wouldn't affect the outcome. It wouldn't affect New Hope in any way. So to make it about Princess Leia and then Obi-Wan facing Darth Vader twice, then you go and watch A New Hope, and you're sitting there going, I have to forget everything I've just seen in this Disney show, because otherwise Star Wars A New Hope makes no fucking sense. It just makes the characters in that film seem so stupid. And they've done this with other projects. Rogue One.
Right.
Why did they make Rogue One? Because somebody said, why was there a flaw in the Death Star? Why did it have a weakness? I'm sorry I'm doing a patronizing voice, but that's what it's felt like. And somebody went, why was there a weakness in the Death Star? Why? Because the whole point of Star Wars, A New Hope, was you had a small ragtag team of rebel fighters and you had this massive Imperial army. And they thought that, because they had built this Death Star, that they were invincible. And the ragtag group of rebels, they found one weakness in there. And they were able to exploit it and destroy. And then it goes, oh, no. Rogue One, no. It's because Galen put it in there as his revenge.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, fine. Okay,
Yeah.
you want to make sense of these little things. And then the end of Rogue One, the scene that every fan wets themselves over when Darth Vader, just goes full on killing rebel soldiers, making it look like it's a scene out of Akira.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see the beginning of New Hope, and he comes walking out of that door, and he doesn't do anything. And you go, well, he must be a bit tired, He must be a bit tired now after all that. He's exerted himself. Now he's just a bit tired, and he just walks around and lets everybody else. And again, it just chips away at the original trilogy.
Okay, I mean that's interesting because obviously, they do that in Rogue One, and then of course they do it more in this show, and
Obi-Wan Kenobi, you once served my father in the Clone Wars, but we also had a little adventure which we shouldn't mention here.
yeah, no,
Just
I mean,
again,
I get what you're saying.
Makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I think there's sort of two ways of looking at it here. Is on one hand, you're kind of diluting this and maybe taking something away from it, and or you could look at it the other way, that these stories, whether they're Rogue One or Obi-Wan Kenobi, kind of enhance and flesh out the story more.
Well, but it does. If taking your point, it does it at the expense of the characters within the original trilogy. I mean, the whole thing with Princess Leia figuring out that they're being tracked. It's like when you watch it originally, you think, oh, she knows the Empire. She's really bright. She's and then now it's you go back and you watch it, and it's like, oh, when she had a little girl, they put a tracking device in her little droid, which Disney is now pushing as a toy. So yeah, it's really like it's kind of like this whole Disney series stuff now. You really have to. I don't know if I want to watch it anymore. I mean, Andor's coming up. I'm just thinking, okay, well, how are they going to fuck with the original trilogy more now?
Yeah. I mean, do you think this is because I think a lot about this as well, and I wonder, obviously we know the bottom line is Disney made a big investment in Star Wars, and they need subscribers, and they need content to get subscribers and all of this sort of thing. But in terms of fan service, member berries, fan pandering, whatever it is, I mean, do you think that in a lot of reasons, in a lot of ways, that happens because these shows are being made, if you like, by our generation now, the guys that have been lucky enough to go on and work on these shows, like you and I grew up watching the original trilogy, and therefore being inspired to become filmmakers or creatives in some form because of that. And do you feel that it's kind of, they're almost doing it because this is the sort of stuff we used to play with our action figures or in the playground when we were kids, and living out that sort of thing, knowing that it will appeal to a lot of people because of that? I mean, do you think that's what's happened?
No, I think it's Disney. I think Disney pushes this stuff in there because they think that's what people want. It's like, remember this. We know of other filmmakers who've had to drop out because they've had creative differences with Disney, because they wanted to try something new. They wanted to do something different. But Disney turns around and says, or Lucasfilm turns around and says, no, we want this, because everybody knows this and they know that. But then when you look at it, it makes no fucking sense. I take the fans. I don't know. I enjoyed Rogue One, but the fan service in it was really horrible. and
Right.
the bit where we saw the two characters from the cantina who,
Oh, that
you
was,
know, feel
yeah.
most isolated. Well, that was like, well, you were there. You must have get out pretty quickly because you know, literally
That was the
exploded,
reference.
and then the next day you're on Tatooine.
Yeah, that was the reference that I hated. Actually, that was. There's
Oh,
not much I hate about Rogue One. I know it was a troubled production, but
yeah,
overall, I enjoy that film a lot. It's actually up there in terms of one of my favorite Star Wars films, actually. But
yeah. I think it's
um,
the so far
that
it's
bit,
the only Disney Star Wars one I'll go back and watch, and that's because it's set in the original trilogy time. But
yeah,
yeah, it's. I also feel you know there's a lot of retcon going on, and as I say, a lot of these do seem to stem from the idea is that they see one little thing in the original films and they say, "Oh, why does that person?" So Obi-Wan, why did they put Princess Leia in there? You know, it could have been Luke. That was his mission was to protect Luke. Why Princess Leia? Could it be that because in A New Hope, when Luke Skywalker rescues Princess Leia, instead of saying I'm with Obi-Wan Kenobi, he says I'm with Ben Kenobi, and she goes Ben Kenobi,
mm,
and somebody saw that and went, how does she know that? Well, you know, because there's so many people in the galaxy called Kenobi. So somebody went put two and two and got five. You know, obviously they had a little adventure together, and she's just pretending not to know him, and just
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky because
yeah,
I must admit, I for one am kind of glad that they didn't have a Luke adventure because I like the idea of Luke not having really been involved in any until he met Obi-Wan. In A New Hope, that is. But
Well, I mean, Luke knew Ben. They had some sort of friendship or relationship, you know, and it would have been nice to maybe have seen that bit fleshed out instead of just the fan service at the end of episode 6 where he goes, "Hello there." You know? Is that it? Oh yeah, he's some crazy old hermit who said hello there to me once.
yeah,
You know, that it's just
yeah. I mean, there
you
is
know,
actually in the again. Sorry, I'm always going back to the radio dramas, but in the radio dramas, Luke does tell 3PO a story they're in the land speeder out looking for R2 about
right,
how he did meet Obi-Wan Kenobi, which would have been about 5 years from this show. So he says about 5 seasons ago, and he and Windy go out on a dewback and they get thrown off in the canyon. And
right,
Ben helps them back to the farm, but then Owen gets really irate and throws him off the farm and all this sort of stuff. So they do
yeah,
kind of like in my head canon, that's kind of the time that he met him before, if you like.
yeah,
But it was quite funny. A few weeks back, I had three of my film school alumni, three of my film school friends, join me from around the world. One from Costa Rica, a couple from the States, and the reason we did it is because we used to have these conversations when we were at film school, because that's when the
oh, right.
special editions came out, and
Oh yes,
obviously
that's right,
when
yeah,
prequels were about to come out. So we thought,
yes,
wouldn't it be great to do that? And Rod, who's the sort of composer friend out of those, he said, and I kind of see his point. He said, basically, anything that's ever cool about Star Wars is anything that references A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back. Okay, I mean, I'll be slightly more generous and let's say the original trilogy, but
yeah,
he sort of made that observation, and really, when you look at the evidence here, he's not wrong, right? Because, as you said, movies and series are all doing this, whether they need that or not, right? They're not really expanding this
no.
huge
Oh.
universe of Star Wars or galaxy, you know.
Well, this is. I always come back to this. It was crazy that they got rid of the extended universe and made it Legends because it was such a fertile ground that they could have sowed for stories. And there was Obi-Wan Kenobi stories and there was stuff like that. And I mean, this is such a missed opportunity. I mean, um, we could have got to see maybe a bit more of the Anakin and Obi-Wan relationship before Anakin turned to the dark side. I mean, we have one flashback scene, which in episode 5, which was kind of like, a back and forth when they were sparring, and you can kind of see that it play out in the actual story happening present time.
Yeah.
And, because it's always been one of those one of the things about the prequel series where we never really got to know Obi-Wan and Anakin as friends. I mean, yes, we saw at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith, they have a little adventure, trying to rescue Senator Palpatine. And, that seems to be like the last of the crazy adventures, but we never saw the other crazy adventures. We only saw,
in
creepy
animated
Anakin. Well, yes, but I'm talking about in flesh.
Right.
Because I would say one of the positives of this series was seeing, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen come back and reprise their roles.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't agree what they did with the characters, but it was good to see them back.
Exactly.
Yeah,
no, it was. I've got a couple of comments in which I'm going to look at, because I am trying, as my mug suggests, to stay on target with all this stuff rather than having my Yoda mug this week. So I want to give a shout out, actually. He's written in here. Artist and friend of the channel, Ryan Holloway, who also actually I did try and get on the panel at one point, but he couldn't make it. He's just said, "Hey guys, good to listen in. I thought Obi-Wan Kenobi was a 3-star show that gave me a 5-star feeling." And that actually sums it up quite well. He goes on to say, too many conflicting ideas in Star Wars now. After the poor reception of the sequel trilogy, Disney needed to pull back the older fans, but also make it exciting for youngsters, or should we say younglings. It doesn't work. What do you think? Do you agree with Ryan?
I will agree with that. They have abandoned the Disney trilogy because it didn't. It started off well and then just went down the toilet very very quick because there was no overall plan. And that's the problem with Star Wars at the moment, is there's no overall plan. It's like, let's do this, it's cool. Let's do that, it's cool. Let's try this, it's cool. Let's do this, and they're just churning it out. It's just a factory at the moment with Star Wars stamped on it, and everyone that comes out just dilutes it and makes it not as good as it used to be.
Yeah.
So
no, I hear what you're saying there.
I understand.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I understand that they want to make it exciting for younger viewers. Then go on different adventures. You can use the original trilogy characters, but you don't have to do it in such a way that it just interferes with the trilogy. It's kind of maddening because because you just want a good story. That's what Star Wars was good storytelling. It was about good versus evil. And at the moment, it's too much trying to pass on messages about things that we're actually living in today, when the idea of Star Wars was it's timeless. It's set in a galaxy far, far away. It doesn't concern gender politics or racism, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you could look at it and you could see stuff in there. I mean, look at how the droids were treated. They were treated as second-class citizens. But we didn't need, like in Solo, a robot shouting out, freedom,
Yeah.
No,
I know what you mean. Hold that thought, actually, because this is a really good point to bring in another guest waiting in the wings, as it were. So he's Birmingham's very own King of the Geeks. He is from a successful channel called The Space Book. So welcome, Dan Hadley. He's muted. He's muted.
You know, I thought that couldn't possibly be me. You were talking about. Hello, hiya Simon. Good to see you again. Hello,
Hi,
Keith.
Dan,
You okay?
Yeah.
Are we having a vent? Are we ranting or are we raving? What's going on?
No, well, this is the thing. I have actually a very subtle lighting cue, right? So we're seeing whether we like it. So we're on the good side with the blue lightsaber, right? Or we don't like it, and we're on the red, which doesn't quite show up as cool on my.
You got the Christmas gear down from the loft early, have we? Yeah, good stuff. I like your style. Yeah, I was just listening to what Simon was saying there about throwing everything at the not at the wall, at the blast doors and seeing what sticks, and that's exactly what they're doing, really. And in some ways, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing creatively. It can be quite exciting, can be quite cathartic, and you can sometimes hit pay dirt, strike gold, insert a cliche here, but. You don't expect that. You don't expect that from the biggest entertainment corporation in the world, with one of the biggest IPs, if not the biggest IP of all time, as their plaything. And from what I gather, still, even after a few years of mediocrity, who are still sort of beating down their doors, really, to get their hands on this franchise, on this world, and to come and play. I don't understand why they find it so difficult to curate a line of things that can't please everybody all the time, but at least have a certain sort of romance about them, where you think, oh, I can't wait for this, and oh, look at that in September. Whereas I don't know about you, I just stare at these lists, these announcements, and think, what the
It's like Marvel as well. I look at all the stuff that's coming out from Marvel, and I don't care anymore. I really don't care. I can't remember what I think. The Avengers film was the last one I saw at the cinema, and I've not seen any of them at the cinema. I've watched them. I've seen them on Disney Plus or on the streaming, and I stopped watching the series after Hawkeye. I could not be bothered with Miss Marvel. No.
Yeah.
And I think with Star Wars as well. I think I will watch The Mandalorian, because at the moment that seems to be the only show that's coming out of Disney, Star Wars wise, that's actually good and sort of building on the original trilogy. But that's Dave Filoni's project, and he's been very good, giving us the Clone Wars, giving us Rebels, now giving us the Mandalorian. But everything outside of that is just hot garbage. It's really bad.
That word, I don't know about you, Keith, but that word building, that it's a simple word, but I think you're right, Simon. I mean, when I look at even the things that I like, and I didn't hate Obi-Wan, not by a long chalk. I certainly don't think it deserves the slating that it's getting, but it doesn't really build anything, does it?
No, because the end of the day, the story they were telling, we knew where it was going to end, because there was no way that Obi-Wan was going to defeat Darth Vader or vice versa, because they have to end up on the Death Star in A New Hope. So I would have maybe taken Darth Vader out of it, make it about Reva, I guess.
Darth Vader should never have been in this series. They needed as many people that we didn't know the destinies of in play, so that we could in time not forget about the weight of the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but we could invest in a whole. I think if there's enough going on with enough people, and it's far enough away from that we know, I think good drama played by good actors, and Hugh McGregor is a great actor, and he's still fantastic in that role. Yeah. They can make us forget that we've seen where Obi-Wan's story ends. A good character and the right actor can do that. Darth Vader should have never been anywhere near that show. As soon as they announced it, I thought, oh no! I was excited about Obi-Wan getting his own movie series, whatever it was going to be. Yeah. But as soon as they started filling it out with, and same with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, you think, okay, we've got that going on with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. We know how that plays out. Both of them walk, hobble, crawl away, whatever.
Yeah.
What's going on in the B plot? And again, we know that Beru and Owen are going to be fine too. It's going to be 20 years before they're smoking and
we lost Simon. Okay.
He's right. He's right.
I mean, it's kind of. I'm sure Simon will try and reconnect in a minute, but here he is. Hold on.
They've sniped him. Boba Fett's got him.
It's like, have the Beru and Owen stormtroopers turned up outside your place?
Yeah, they got him.
But I mean, to Simon's point and following on from what you were saying there, Dan, I mean, this is the thing. They're if you like, they're filling in so many gaps now in a very finite time in their timeline. And I think one of the reasons that The Mandalorian works quite nicely is because that is fairly fertile ground, because it's 5-6 years after the end of Return of the Jedi. We've still got more than 20 years before it catches up with the sequel trilogy, right? So there is
or it could go its separate way from the sequel trilogy. There's still talk about that.
I don't know whether I've heard that.
Do you want the original trilogy connecting up to the Disney sequels?
If they were sensible, they'd leave those as much at arm's length as they can possibly keep them for the next 10 to 15 years until the kids who grew up watching those sequel films, until they reach age and they've got children, and then hopefully the rest of us will have forgotten how bad they were. I honestly think that's their only play with that. Otherwise, they may as well sort of let them gather dust, really, or sit in their own little corner on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I don't think Star Wars is going to last that long as an entity creating more work, because they just keep coming up with the same old stories. They keep going to the same old planets. How many times have we seen Tatooine now?
Well, yeah, considering Tatooine was supposed to be the least important world in the galaxy, originally.
Again, this makes the original characters from the trilogy seem dumb, because they put Luke on Tatooine because he was going to be far from the Empire.
Yes.
And they're all fucking up. They're fucking turning up on the doorstep all the time. Yeah. And Darth Vader, must realise there's a lot going on.
It's now a major tactical planet of significance.
Ryan's just said in the comments, agree with Simon. Will I also agree with Keith? And he goes on to say, every minute a new Star Wars series is born.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, are they looking over at what's going on with the success of the Dune film? A second one, it's about to start filming, isn't it? And I believe that the intention is to make a third that will adapt Children of Dune, and then that'll be largely.
Okay. Of course, are they skipping Dune Messiah then? Because there's the second book's Dune Messiah.
I believe that is going to form half of the second film somehow, that they're going to turn the first three books into 3 films, but they're going to be sort of bending the flow of the story. I can't remember. It's been years since I read those, but I know the third book takes place several decades later, doesn't it? When Paul is much older. So I can't. It was explained to me.
Okay, well, I think they make a big mistake if they do that, because at least with the end of June, you leave on a high, Spoiler, Paul Atreides wins. If you've not seen...
Hold on, I only said we were going to spoil Star Wars, not Dune as well.
What I was wondering, because obviously Arrakis in Dune is a place that is dusty and apart from that, very hostile and very insignificant. We sort of led to, but ultimately that's the hub of all of it. It all revolves. Do you think that's how they view now Tatooine with the Star Wars universe?
It seems so. I think it's just literally they love, again, memorabilities. It's like, oh look, there's Tatooine. Everybody remembers Tatooine. Look, there's the last homestead. Everybody remembers the last homestead, and the fact that it's still standing there now, and it's a tourist attraction. It's been like that for 40 years since A New Hope was filmed. It's like we'll keep coming back to that, and we'll see another show, and they'll land on Tatooine, and they'll do more stuff on there, and and you're just like, enough with Tatooine. We've had 2 series so far set on Tatooine, mostly.
Well, we obviously know Tatooine was sort of inspired by Dune anyway, wasn't it? Like, as was Spice, the spice mines of Kessel and whatever. But we've had a couple more comments. So David Ahmed has said, in response to Dan, a good actor can only perform what's on the page. Without it, they have an uphill struggle. I agree, Ewan McGregor is perfect as Kenobi, but wasn't supported in the writings.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I would say that it depends on what you call the writing. I mean, if we're looking at the characterization, I think that was sort of there, but I think the dialogue needed a lot more TLC. And I thought the shape of the plot was okay. It was just really flabby and
it was dragged out for 6 episodes.
Structure is the word I'm thinking of, I think, Simon.
Well, I think the other thing as well is they love doing this because it's like a video game trope. If you play any Star Wars games, especially Jedi ones, at the beginning of the game, the character you're playing has been cut off from the Force, and he has to reconnect with the Force. And then as he goes along, he learns more, and his levels increase until finally he's at master level. And watching the show, it was literally like that. It's like at the beginning, Obi-Wan Kenobi is cut off from the Force, and he's got to find his lightsaber. And when he finds his lightsaber, he's then at level 1. And now he's got to go on a mission. And he goes on his mission, and he's not that great at powers. But then Leia falls, and now he has to catch her. He learns a new skill. He learns Force Grab. And now he's at level 2. But now he's got to face off against Vader. And Vader is master level, He's the enemy at the end. He's the big. He's the boss.
That's a brilliant way of describing it.
He's boss level. So Obi-Wan has his ass handed to him. So he goes off to a bacta tank and heals up. He gets a health pack and he's back to full health. And now he's got to learn more of the Force. And until so at the end, he finally gets to master level and he can kick Vader's ass. And it was like watching a video game. And it's like, what? Okay.
Oh, we should have got a soundboard now, Keith, because then I could hit some sound effects. It'd go ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Or the noise that the magic coins make in Sonic.
But I mean, the thing is, when Luke Skywalker cut himself off from the Force in The Last Jedi, he wasn't back to 0. He was still when he reconnected, he was still at, his full Force powers. So why Obi-Wan Kenobi? And I don't get this whole guilt thing where he felt guilty for Anakin and becoming Darth Vader, and because he didn't know Anakin was alive. He thought Anakin was dead until Reva told him.
But he thought he'd failed him as well, didn't he? Hence, his journey to the dark side and all of that stuff. But
but I mean, as I say, it's just the rules about the Force are so they sort of they're just changing all the time.
Yeah. Well, supporting that, Simon. David Ahmed has also said, totally read my mind, Simon. The Star Wars waters are very muddied at this point. I've watched some of The Mandalorian and it's tolerable, but the films will always be the classic 1977 to 83 for me.
I believe that, and I've said this before. I know if anybody's heard me mouth off about this before, but I believe that the Obi-Wan show that we've just watched, 6 episodes, wasn't it, was largely there for people who are 10, 15, 20 years younger than certainly I am, who grew up watching the prequel movies. People the same age, around the same age as my son, maybe up until, say, their late 20s, who grew up watching those prequel films. And to a lot of them, they're just as, maybe not just as revered, but just as important to their fandom and their own upbringing as as those original films are to us. So I believe that the Obi-Wan series was largely made for them. I think it's got a lot of the same hokiness about it. I think it's got a lot of the same problems. I think that they also had structural problems. They also had dialogue problems. Yeah. But if you align it up with those, it actually fits really quite well. But whereas I believe the Mandalorian show was aimed more squarely, not exclusively, but more squarely at people of our generation who grew up with those original films. It had the flavour of the original films. And it was a lot sturdier. I think it was sturdier mainly because Jon Favreau, it has a firmer grasp of story. And I believe, particularly with season 1, that even though we're talking about Disney, we're talking about Star Wars, I think they had all these several things at the starting gate that they wanted to do afterwards. But I believe that they knew at that point that it was by no means a certainty that The Mandalorian would be either commercially would hit that sort of commercial beat that they wanted it to, or capture people's imaginations in a pop culture sense, that it would actually chime with people. I think that they have no idea. Now, really, they should have done, because all the ingredients are there, particularly when you put Baby Yoda in, it's absolute gold. But they have all the things that didn't work, like The Last Jedi, Solo, Rise of Sky. Was it called Rise of Skywalker?
It was. Yeah.
I can't even remember what that film's bloody called.
Yeah, that was.
Those films, they know that they didn't work, but they still don't know why they didn't work, why people didn't like them, why they lost money. They've got no idea. So that's so even when they've got people like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and they've got this task out, they still didn't have any more or less confidence in that project than they did with anything else, because they certainly don't understand the fan base.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, because me and Simon, before you came on, we were discussing the fact that you know, are they making everything now that's Star Wars for the the OG fans, if you like, by having this.
They can't. If you think about it, and they'd be foolish. Yeah. They'd be foolish to do that with something that straddles now 45 years. They'd be foolish, and I don't want them to do that. Just same with Marvel Studios. Like you, Simon, I've got no interest in Miss Marvel. I think she's quite a fun character on the page with her big fists and stuff like that. But to me, it's quite clear that show is not aimed at my age group. It's a kid show, or a late teen show, a YA show, and it's it's perfectly reasonable for a brand like Marvel potentially to have a show like that in their portfolio. I get it, and I think that the Star Wars, why shouldn't it do that? But of course, I think people would have been, and you could say that it's been doing that since the 80s too. There was the Droid show, there was the Ewoks cartoon show, and we forget that those things exist, or we sort of scrub them from our memory. It's fine that they.
I don't. But the thing is with those shows was that they were outside stories. They did not involve the Skywalkers. There was no Darth Vaders in it. They were just self, encapsulated. They were just their own thing, and they were very enjoyable. And I watched an episode of the Ewoks show again recently and cringed a lot for it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't damage my love for the rest of Star Wars, and these shows do. That's the problem. You watch these shows and you see, Darth Vader pulls a spaceship out of the sky, rips it to pieces, and then you go, Empire Strikes Back. He was there. He could have caught the Millennium Falcon. Was he tired? Did he need a rest again? And it does. They just keep making them so overpowered, the Jedi, that when you go back to the original trilogy, or you think about the original trilogy, it's like, well, all these things they could have done. Why didn't they do them? Yeah.
This is the problem, though. This is the problem. This is the problem. It goes back to what you were saying, though, about the fact that they are essentially telling the same story over and over again. And that's why they keep. And that's why they keep the power levels go up, the stakes go up. It's the same story. They think that people won't notice because the stakes and the power levels have gone up. Whereas if they went in another direction, they don't necessarily have to go they don't have to turn it into a kitchen sink drama where the most dramatic thing that happens is Mum can't find the fairy liquid, but they could go sideways a little and deal more with, and that's why I was initially very excited about the idea all those years ago before they sold it to Disney of that Underworld series. The idea that this is a parallel community, a parallel world that exists within the Star Wars universe, where bounty hunters are doing this. You know, it's kind of like in the Marvel print universe where you've got, you know, Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four going off into the negative zone and doing all that, and yet a few streets down in Hell's Kitchen, you know, Daredevils simply sort of getting bloody fists beating the shit out of some loan shark around the back of the bins. It's all in the same universe, but it's playing on different levels.
And I was enjoying that about Marvel. Sorry to interrupt you, Keith, but I was enjoying that about Marvel when they were doing the shows on Netflix. So when you had the likes of Daredevil and, you know, and all these other shows they had going, and they were sort of taking place parallel to everything that was going on to the films, and the films kind of informed the series. So say like Age of Ultron happened, then it would be referenced in the series, or the attack on New York in the original Avengers. You know, it had affected those areas and those characters. And then of course they did away with the Netflix series, and of course then you didn't kind of have those parallel stories. And Star Wars is fertile ground for parallel stories. You know, there is more outside of than the Skywalker saga. And Marvel did when I was a kid, I would read all the Marvel comics, and there was all these adventures that, you know, I know they they were based around Luke, Han, and Leia, but it wasn't always Darth Vader, and it wasn't always the Empire. There was always other things as well going on.
Crimson Jack. Don't know whether you remember that, but anyway, no. I mean, you know, the Underworld series, as well as some of the expanded universe things, they do seem to sort of cherry pick, you know, bits and pieces from the shows. David Ahmed's made another comment here. He said, "Absolutely, Dan. These new shows are not aimed at anyone born in the 70s. As fans, I think Lucasfilm have been trying to show us the door by focusing on the prequel characters." And he goes on to say, David said, "I was born in 1971. I just think we were incredibly lucky to have had Star Wars during its initial run. The A-Team was definitely on it. Gary Kurtz, Irvin Kershner et al. I never watched the Ewok films." I mean, you know, the good thing with, as you said, Simon, the Ewok films, it didn't matter whether you watched them or not. No. You know, it wasn't key to the canon. It was
it's lovely that those films exist. I saw at least one of them in the cinema, and I must admit I was scratching my head somewhat. But that in itself is
Sorry, I mean, Simon, Caravan of Courage was, for a kid, kind of disturbing. Anytime parents are kidnapped and, you know, their children are left behind to, you know, try and find them with a group of teddy bears, it's, you know, it's disturbing as fuck.
Absolutely.
It did have a kind of grim Brothers Grimm feel about it, which I'm not sure if that's what they were going for, but I can't say that didn't work. I mean, particularly as a TV movie.
And at the end of the day, if it did or didn't work, it doesn't affect the other stories.
No.
And that's what they should really look at these TV series as, just being like, you know, stories that take place outside of the canon.
Going back to Obi-Wan, what we're saying that Vader shouldn't. I believe that Vader shouldn't have been in it, and that's not that I mean to say that they misused Vader completely through the show. I don't think there was some good stuff in there somewhere. So there was some good moments in there, but generally he shouldn't have been in there, and he absolutely shouldn't be anywhere near season 2. Yeah. What I don't understand is they'd got a character there, Rupert Friend, as the Inquisitor, was it?
Yeah,
he was magnetic. So he could have fulfilled that. He could have fulfilled that role more than adequately. And I'm not saying they should have had him pulling spaceships out of the sky either, but he had enough. He was visually arresting. He was played by a good character actor. And because to the majority of us watching, you know, and I know he started out in the animated universe, and I think he's in games too, but largely his destiny is wide open. And that's also a player on the table to take the game off onto a parallel board. It's all opportunities to open up more, even if it's not just people, but places and chains of events that could take place over however long you want them to be. And I can't believe that they didn't see the value in that. I think it was judgment. I probably, and I like the man, I do, but I probably would blame Ewan McGregor for that. I think his friendship with Hayden Christensen, because obviously Ewan McGregor was a producer on this thing. I think that it was entirely. I think it's snowballed from that. I
think it's Lucasfilm. I think it's Disney. What do people recognize? Darth Vader. People recognize Darth Vader. Yeah. It's like with Revenge of the Sith.
Obi-Wan was enough. He would have sold that show on his own.
I know, but they don't have no faith in him. No. Was the show really about Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I think so, generally.
Well,
he did seem to play second fiddle to a lot of other characters. I
think that's. I personally think that's unfair. I've heard that quite a lot. I think I think he acted as a sort of a steward. Right. Who sort of enabled us to bring in new players, but I don't think that he was necessarily downgraded in a show that bore his name. Myself,
my understanding from things I've read, and you know, until we get a Star Wars Galaxy. Or gallery, a Star Wars gallery episode on Disney? I'm sure they'll dig into this sort of thing. By the way, they've removed all the Mandalorian ones off of Disney. By the way, that you can only get the Book of Boba Fett one on there now, and I really like those shows. But anyway, I'm sorry, I've got off topic already. But no, my understanding is
streaming for you.
Why are they removing?
I don't know.
Why are they removing anything? Why are they removing anything when you're paying your monthly subscription? They should not be removing anything at all.
Yeah. No, okay.
They do, and it's like it's the Netflix thing. It's like you see there's a film on there, you want to watch it, and you go, well, you don't watch it at the time you see it, but a couple of months down the road, you think, oh, I want to watch that film. You go back to Netflix, it's gone.
Yeah. No, sorry. Before I derailed us by throwing that in there, the story, as I understand it, what actually happened in terms of the writing and the inclusion of certain characters is. In one of the episodes, I gave the filmography of Stuart Beattie, who was credited for story on a few of the episodes. And apparently, my understanding is the story was, as we all know, this film some years ago was going to be a movie. It was going to be an Obi-Wan. It was going to, when they were still doing a Star Wars story. So we'd had Rogue One, we had Solo. And next we were going to get Obi-Wan. I think there was also a Boba Fett one planned as well.
Yes, there was,
and Stuart Beattie had originally written the script for the movie of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And my understanding was that the character of Reva is introduced and that sort of storyline is there. But my understanding is the Leia stuff, and I think the Vader stuff as well, wasn't as prominent in that particular story. And then what happened when Solo, a Star Wars story, was a financial and a critical flop for Disney, that's when they decided to look at, and also they were, of course, launching the streaming platform as well. That's when they looked to do it as a 6-part series, a limited series. So what that meant is it went over then to Joby Harold, who was the showrunner and the chief writer at that stage, and they took Stuart Beattie's story, but they changed it. They added elements in, and I think that's when the Leia subplot got added, and possibly, and again, I'm not 100% sure on this, but the Vader Anakin stuff got expanded as well. And I think that the fate of Reva was supposed to be somewhat different in that version as well, which they retooled, for, again, more series potential, because there's also talk now about
the arc of that character was so clear. It was so obvious watching that was she met her natural end at least twice.
Yeah.
In that
yes.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, her character is kind of troubling from the point of view that, yeah, we could see from the beginning, because she's literally in the first scene, it's signposted that, she's somebody who will probably be redeemed by the end of the show. But her plan to get at Vader must be the dumbest plan ever. I mean,
and there's been some dumb ones in Star Wars, hasn't there? But yes.
But I mean, so she is. I mean, I've nothing against the actor playing her. The writing of the character was just terrible, because she was like so bad, wasn't she? She's cutting off people's hands for just talking out of the way. Even the other Inquisitors are going, "You're going too far. How dare you do this?" All this kind of stuff, and she's just bulldozing her way through everything. And then in episode 5, wasn't it, where she goes, "Oh yeah, I'm doing all this to get. I want to draw out Obi-Wan Kenobi so I can draw out Vader." And it's just like, and then I'm going to try and kill Vader, but I'm going to be bad doing.
Yeah,
it was just like, and yeah, her getting the lightsaber through the gut. I mean, it killed Qui-Gon. It killed Qui-Gon. And I did read somewhere about, because she is a Sith, she is a dark side user, that they can prolong their life to get revenge. But the moment when she spared Luke's life, she should have died. Because that, energy that was sustaining her would have been gone.
And there might have been power in that as a story beat, yes, for everybody involved.
Yeah, it's just you get the feeling that the filmmakers had their hands tied on a lot of things. There's a lot of things coming from corporate that they had to include.
If you think about it, apart from Indira Varma's character, everybody who was in play in episode 1 is pretty much still in play by episode 6. Nothing's really everybody they introduce.
Problem, yeah.
It's as if they put it out there. Okay, let's see who the audience latch onto, and so we won't kill anybody really. We'll get in a British character actor stroke actress to speak in a very sort of proper way. We'll get rid of them. Because people are expecting that. So Indira Varma's got to bite the big one, but everybody else, it's also cynical.
It's just, and I don't know, just the creativity is just not there. I mean, the fact that when they're holed up in that base and they're surrounded, and early on in that episode, Obi-Wan is shown all these lightsabers. And it's like, maybe you should dish those out. They could use those. But then they've never really sort of talked about lightsabers and the Jedi. To the point where, in A New Hope, we saw that Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber was dying because his power was fading because he was coming to the end. But yet, with other Jedis, they just throw each other lightsaber in the first, in the prequels. And, I always felt the idea was that the lightsaber was kind of connected to the user, to the Jedi.
I'd forgotten about that.
A bit like the wands in Harry Potter.
Yeah.
So, how in the in the Book of Boba / Mandalorian episode, series 3.1, that Mando's having problems with the Darksaber. The fact that he's finding it difficult to wield. Yes. I would have thought that's what lightsabers are like as well. But they never addressed that. So when he's shown his lightsabers, I know it's just to show that the Jedi have been through this way, that they've, escaped and gone off. But then again, one of them could have been that Jedi that turned up at Tatooine that Obi-Wan just went, "No, fuck off." Help me, Obi-Wan. No, fuck off.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've never really addressed lightsabers, and it's I think they should.
Do you know, Simon? That's really interesting, because you've pointed out something to me there that in all the years and all the literally hundreds of times I've watched New Hope, and different versions of New Hope, that thing about the lightsaber power, I'd always assumed that was a visual effects mistake, that they did end up fixing it in one of the special editions, one of the editions there. But I'd never thought of that as being sort of deliberate, and it was starting to fade out because it's actually, when he does say, Vader does actually say, your powers are weak, old man, and he says, you can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. But I'd never thought of that. That's really interesting, because I've got, it's almost an image of it there, but there's that bit where he's backing up and it looks like the lightsaber's starting to conk out. And as I said, I always thought that was a visual effects issue with the rotoscoping.
So would I.
But that's interesting. I'd never thought of it that way.
Well, so, I mean, how does Luke become a Jedi Knight? What's the final step to him becoming a Jedi Knight, apart from defeating Vader?
Building the lightsaber, right?
Building his own lightsaber.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when Han in Empire Strikes Back opens the Tauntaun, he does look like he's having problems with it, that he can't control it properly.
Yeah.
But as I say, in the prequels, they're throwing lightsabers to everybody.
What's his name? General Grievous has got a ton of them.
And they're all wearing Tatooine robes as well. But that's actually. Yeah. On those comments, Simon, David Ahmed again has made some points off the back of that. So he said, Reva's natural end should have been death by Vader's lightsaber for the second time. How in the hell did she survive that? Suspension of disbelief, anyone? Mine was overextended many times. And then he goes on to say, Simon is more than likely right. I bet it's script by committee at Disney with a $sign there, stroke Lucasfilm these days. Sadly, creativity is timid at best, probably stifled by the higher ups or the merchandising department. So
and it's how you know, Keith, that because in my view, when we talk about Star Wars, we've got to be very careful that we don't over mythologize this stuff. But the stories were never that complicated in the first place. It's very, very simple what's going on. They're not working on all. It's not like 4D chess. There's not all these things going on everywhere. It's really quite simple. They're classical stories, kind of retold with the everything sort of filed off for a family audience. There's fairy tale in there, there's western in there, all that kind of thing, and it's all boiled down. And the shape of it is very, very simple, and that's absolutely fine. But the thing that they did, not even a genius thing, but because it really wouldn't have taken much working out. But the key to it all, though, the key to classical storytelling, is as well as romance, is tragedy. So people have to die. The stakes. You have to see the impact of people's actions and sadness and desperation and all these things. And so not killing Grievous' character at that point, people are not going to forget that. And I was joking about everybody being alive at the end, pretty much bar one person. How important
too, because there was that pilot that went in the air speeder along.
That was it. We
were supposed to care about, but didn't.
Dude,
that was the attempt at pathos.
After that nameless character got killed off.
Yeah,
I was so grieved by that. I was just like, it was just like he died, and everybody's upset, and we're like, who was that guy? And the visual effects. I mean, that episode's just stinking, absolutely stinking. From the point of view that they stole that from Jedi Fallen Order, for one.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. And two, we had I'm gonna hide Leia underneath my that was
big
coat.
With the trench coat that appeared from nowhere. The trench coat that appeared from nowhere. Yes.
And looked completely out of place. to the airspeeders flying into the hangar, and literally, because there was a wall there, looked like they flew into the wall. It was such the visual effects in that
It
was
was
so
weird, yeah.
awful. And then it literally it was hovering like that, where we know these vehicles need to move, otherwise they just go. Phoom.
Yes,
not just the special effects. I found the direction across all 6 episodes very variable. And I know that Deborah Chow's name was on all of it, and I've always rated her. But I suspect that probably approaching 50% of it wasn't actually directed by her, may have been signed off by her.
Well, it's kind of interesting about the if you like, the effects, and particularly that scene with the air speeders. Was what I thought was a bit bizarre is when they, at the beginning of that episode, when they were sort of setting up the security of the base, and we had Reva arrive, and we saw it, that they actually made a point. They had a really cool camera angle, and I thought, what a great shot of her walking in, and there being like squadrons of TIE fighters, like sort of suspended from the ceiling, almost like bats, you know, sort of. But what I found bizarre is they never deployed any of those TIE fighters at any time, and you'd think that would be the first thing they do, right, when ships are approaching and attacking. And again, I'm being very nitpicky here, but it was just one of those things.
You can say that the same for the final episode.
Yeah,
you had the Star Destroyer chasing a single ship.
Yes,
it's got TIE fighters on there. Deploy the TIE fighters. They did it in Empire. So
yes. No, exactly. Oh, by the way, sorry, as he's commented a lot, David Armin said, "Got to go now, Keith. Nice to see you again. Haven't joined in on one of these since your Flash Gordon live event. Great stuff. Cheers." The Flash Gordon one being my first ever live stream, actually. Very rusty on that one. But thank you, David, and thank you for your comments. I do appreciate that. So yeah. All right. So back to this thing about how, you know, we this is all diluting things, as you said, but you know, one of your points earlier, Simon, about it not really lining up with the original trilogy and kind of ruining that. Last week I put a slide up, and it was inspired by an image that I saw when I was looking for images to use for slides, basically. And it's this on the right-hand side, which for anyone listening to this on a podcast, basically it was an image I found of the last look that Obi-Wan gives to Luke in A New Hope before he smiles and down. And also Obi-Wan with Luke and Leia just as they're born from episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And it kind of made me think, actually, you know what? The last thing Ben sees before he's cut down is actually Luke and Leia together, about to escape with Han and Chewie on the
I'd wondered about that as well.
And you think the last time that he saw those two together, or well, unless they make another Obi-Wan series, but the last time he saw them together in the chronology, if you like, was when they'd just been born, when they were, you know, babies. And I just sort of thought, that's actually something that I think recontextualizes that moment in a positive way. And I just wondered if you guys had thoughts on that, really, or am I just
I had exactly the same thought. And that's what I mean when I say that the Obi-Wan series wasn't all bad. And I mean in entertainment value and in little moments like that, in when they were, I don't know if their sensitivity, if that was accidental or not. It's quite likely on past evidence. But I do agree with you.
What about you, Simon? Are you less convinced?
Well, I mean, the image seeing Obi-Wan, the last thing he sees is Luke and Leia together, and of course he's there for their birth. I mean, that's all Lucas. That's the whole everything rhymes.
Yes.
You know, he talks about when he was making the prequels. I think as touching as the scene was at the end where he gives her a hug and all this stuff and says, "I knew your mother," and you know,
got it there.
Still was kind of retconning the whole, but Leia, we got to keep this secret. We do have to keep this secret, And, so, in like 10 years' time, when you need my help, don't mention me. Don't mention that you know me. Because we got to keep the continuity going, even though we fucked the continuity. And it's just like it's like they want their cake and eat
it. Yeah. I mean,
it's really hard. It
is hard.
So hard to not be cynical.
I know it is hard, particularly when we're dealing with prequels or interquels in this case. But I mean, to be fair to Lucasfilm and George Lucas, even back when he was controlling things, he did make some of the changes for the sake of continuity. So obviously,
I mean, I've never been. I mean, I enjoyed the special editions when they came out, but it got to a point where it's like he's just changing so much just for the sake of it. And it's just like, please leave it alone. Or if you're going to keep doing this, can we please have the originals? So for those of us who don't want to see you put rocks in front of R2-D2 or have Darth Vader go, no, at the end of Return of the Jedi. We have that. And it's just like, so, even near the end, Lucas was kind of like messing with it too much.
He was, I mean, but obviously, like when he was filming Revenge of the Sith, to bring Ian McDiarmid in to do the Emperor scenes for Empire Strikes Back, I thought that was sort of valid and made sense. And likewise, from an age point of view, they put obviously Hayden Christensen in at the end.
That was
bollocks. For the Force Ghosts, because obviously
that made no that absolutely made no fucking sense, because that's not how he looked when he died.
And he's supposed to be redeemed, even if it's just in his final moments in Return of the Jedi, isn't he? So I'm with you on that one, Simon.
I mean, this is the thing. It's supposed to be at the point of your death. I know Qui-Gon looks old, because Liam Neeson. It's been a while.
That was
they unfortunately didn't have the budget to de-age him. They had the budget for the wig and the beard.
I think one of the reasons was, though, when they made Return of the Jedi, at that point the age difference between Ben and Anakin hadn't been established so much. So obviously they cast a guy much nearer to Alec Guinness's age.
But it still would not make sense to see Hayden Christensen at the age he was at Revenge of the Sith, because the idea of being a Force ghost is that's how you look at the point of your death. So by your logic and Lucas's logic, Obi-Wan Kenobi should be Ewan McGregor, and Yoda should be CGI Yoda.
Yeah, but look, even in Return of the Jedi, Obi-Wan's Force Ghost looked older than he did in New Hope.
Well, yeah, come on, I mean, it wasn't,
I know. I'm talking,
in Return of the Jedi, he had to sit down on a log. Who knew ghosts, Force ghosts could do that? But
no, absolutely. So, any other things that you want to say or add while we're on the subject here of Obi-Wan Kenobi? This is probably going to be the last episode we do on this, unless they bring a season 2 out or something. But
they're talking about it.
We're talking about the next Star Wars project, of course. But anything, I over the last 6 or 7 weeks, I've said quite a lot about it. As I said, mainly positive, although I have pointed out some of my criticisms as well. But I just want, it's both your first time on here to talk about this. So anything that you guys want to add before we kind of bring it to an end?
There's a phrase you hear it a lot in content creation, actually, to the point where it's become a bit of a cliche. And sometimes it's for me, it's starting to feel like nails down a a blackboard kind of thing. But it's true. It's a truism, I suppose. But I when you asked that, I thought, God, yeah, this really applies. It is what it is. It's not particularly deep, not particularly meaningful. I recognize those out there in the fan base, and particularly in the fandom menace side to the audience, who are labeling it as soulless content for Disney Plus. I get that. I think it's harsh, but I do get it. I think this is fine, and time may be kind to it. I think when everything sort of settles down, and whatever happens with Star Wars, for better or worse, happens, I think that this may be remembered more fondly than some of the other projects that are coming up and that we've had already. So I think, and particularly if people go back and watch it again, and you know, and even though it's not going to make those lumpy bits, it's not going to make them any less hard to chew your way through. I think there's other things at play. There are other little moments in this that could bring people a lot of pleasure, and there's lots of potential for memes in there too. I heard yesterday that there's a guy out there, as always with these things, and he's very much like you two. He's a filmmaker and editor, and he works on. He says on his social media, I think it was on TikTok, that he does special effects on quite low budget movies, but he edits and things like that. And he has turned the 6.5 hours worth of content for the Obi-Wan show. He's actually made his own edit of it, and he's edited it down to turn it into a film, into a theatrical film.
Okay.
That comes to just over 4 hours and 10 minutes, I think. Oh, and right. That could end up being the default version of this story to go to. I only saw a few reviews yesterday, and they were very favourable, even from people who'd been quite scathing of the show. So
yeah. Okay. I think we're going to see a lot of fan edits. I think you're going to find somebody's going to be able to edit it down to 2 hours. 4 hours is still kind of long for a feature, but I think somebody's going to edit it down to 2 hours, and people will be quite happy with that, because there was a lot of filler. I mean, as I say, Princess Leia need rescuing twice, and they could certainly cut out that chase scene in episode 1 where they were trying to capture it.
Yeah, that wasn't very
It was literally like, you can't touch the child, so it didn't look like parents chasing their child. Oh, I'm going to get you. Oh,
chasing your kid around the beer garden on a bank holiday Monday. Yeah, I've done that.
I mean, what one part of me sort of thinks, you know, like, obviously, you know, I do also think, whereas I agree that it dilutes things down and it's unnecessary and all of this, part of me just thinks it's cool that, you know, we get live action Star Wars streamed to us every week. I mean, if you told the kid, you know, the 10-year-old version of me that, I'd have been like, oh, because, you know, we had to wait years for films, and all we had were novelizations and audio dramas and comics and stuff like that to keep us going until the next installment, you know. And yeah, okay, it's probably oversaturated now, but it is kind of, you know, I think we are as fans quite fortunate because we don't have to watch it and accept it, right? We can choose something else. So I don't know. You know, I'm looking kind of on the light side of the force here, I guess. So to sum it up, then, are you guys? I want to know if you're. Oh, let's see if you're.
Here he goes.
Blue lightsaber,
big finish.
or red lightsaber, or are you a yellow lightsaber where you're sort of in between?
Like a streak of piss. I think. Oh God! I think I'll go with the blue. Actually, I think I'll still have mostly my thumb up for this.
So Dan is a blue lightsaber, a Jedi.
I regret it by the time we go offline.
Light side of the force. No, I mean, I think, to be honest, I mean, it's no secret. I'm sure people listening. Generally, I'm a blue lightsaber guy with this. You know, I enjoyed it. But what about you, Simon? Are you? I'm
gonna have to go with a red lightsaber.
You're gonna go.
It had a lot.
Oh, my lighting effect is just not good enough there, is it? Yeah, the red, it's slightly red here. And it's not just sunburn. I can do green as well. Look.
I think I like go with yellow. I think
At
At the end of the day, it was disappointing because they could have done a lot more with it. They could have made a very interesting story, a side adventure, something that takes place outside of the canon. And they have to, do stuff that includes Darth Vader. They have to do stuff that is around the Skywalkers, waste characters like the Inquisitors. And I also want to add, even though they used it in the advertising, where was the John Williams score? Where was Jewel of the Fates or the music they used in Revenge of the Sith?
A lot of the music was very underwhelming in the Obi-Wan show.
I mean, they did use
I can't remember any of it. And they wanted to go for this big bombastic fight scene. I mean, I thought nothing wrong with the fight scene. It's just a shame they had to keep intercutting it with what was going on at the last homestead.
Yeah.
And which, of course, then made no sense. If that's happening the same time, how did Obi-Wan get back so quickly? And how did she get to the planet?
I was going to say, how did she get
to dead with no ships or anything? And how did she get to the planet?
She got wounded to Tatooine with no ship in record, before the Star Destroyer could catch up with Ben in a ship with no hyperdrive. But I mean, yes.
But, I mean, it's I mean, they if they wanted to make it about Reva, they could have had a very interesting villain who, at the end, might have looked like she has a redemption or didn't do what she planned to do. I mean, you can still be a villain and not go through with your plan. Do the whole live to fight another day, but it's just like, as you say, just throwing everything at the blaster door and hoping that something sticks, and none of it sticks. It just runs down, and it's a waste of money, a waste of time. We could have had a nice adventure. I mean, yes, it's okay. The show is okay. It's not terrible. It's not Book of Boba Fett. I mean, that was,
which is
I have to say, I was getting Book of Boba Fett flashbacks when I saw Obi-Wan in a Bacta tank, and I'm like, oh no, it's not flashback time, is it? Oh no. But then it became weirdly pseudo-sexual with him and Vader both being in Bacta tanks. So I was like, okay. There's some weird choices in this show.
This is the thing. I mean, we were saying earlier, and rightly so, about Favreau and Filoni doing a great job on The Mandalorian, but we also have to bear in mind that they were the showrunners as well behind the Book of Boba Fett, and I think Obi-Wan Kenobi was far more successful than the Book of Boba Fett for telling a satisfying story, in my opinion. Anyway, I Book of Boba Fett.
No, I won't disagree on that. I mean, Book of Boba Fett was just terrible. It was the wrong thing to do with the character. Again, he could have gone off. He could have been a bounty hunter, or he could have changed his ways. But it's just we didn't need to see how he got out the Sarlacc pit, how he, got to know the Tusken Raiders, how he got his ship back. When he turned up in The Mandalorian, well, we were just happy to see him. It's like, we knew you'd get out of the Sarlacc pit. You put on a bit of weight, but that's fine by us. And, in the show, he was used so well in The Mandalorian. I mean, the fact you got to see inside Slave One, which we never got to see in any of the features. But then when it came to his own show, absolutely wasted. Again, near the end, he became an extra in his own show. It was just,
Yes.
So,
which, to be fair, Obi-Wan wasn't in this show, was he? Even though some people think so. But what does R2 think?
Yeah.
There you go. Now that's cool. Okay. So, Dan, any final thoughts from you, or are you happy with your say on it?
Yeah, I'm more than happy. I'm spent with the Force for now.
Until the next one. Right, yeah. Simon. Where can people find more of your work, and what are you working on at the moment?
Well, you can go to my website, independentrunnings.com. You can find links to all my work on there. And also, I have 2 feature films on Amazon. One being Modern Love, starring Keith Isles and other actors. And also, I have a vampire feature called Blood and Roses. So they're both available for rental on Amazon. And currently, I'm sort of in between projects. So I'm working on some stuff, but I'm not at a point to actually announce what they are.
Good. Okay. Interesting. Dan, I have to apologize because you joined us kind of late. I didn't prepare a slide for you. So tell us about the Space Book and what you're working on, please. So
the Space Book is a YouTube channel and social media group on Facebook where we talk about movies and TV and comics and sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and pretty much anything in popular culture over there. And the Space Book is the YouTube channel that sort of sprang out of that, with all of the shows pretty much fronted by me and an assortment of my mates. We get together and we talk about stuff. At the moment, we're having a bit of a rejig over there. So obviously, if you're a big Doctor Who fan, that's absolutely a place for you to go. There's Type 40 Live is our big weekly live stream every Thursday from 8 p.m, where I get together with a group of companions all huddled around the console. It's ever so cozy. And we talk about whatever's going on that week in the Whoniverse, the classic stuff, the new stuff, and whatever's coming up for the anniversary in a couple of years' time. We're all quite excited about all of that. So there's that, and there's the Type 40 podcast itself too, which is a pre-recorded thing, interviews, features, reviews, a bit more traditional, a bit more tightly edited, and not so much swearing. So you can get plenty of Doctor Who action. Some of it, if it makes sense, over on the Spacebook channel. And there's more to come, other live streams and other shows talking about other things when I can sort of get my act together and work out a new schedule. Thanks, Keith.
That's cool. I'll make sure I'll update the show notes down below to include links to all of that and your stuff as well, Simon. Obviously, thank you to the people who have made comments this evening. But if you're finding this after the fact and you still want to make a comment, you can indeed do so down in the comment section below, and I will get back to you. In terms of some other stuff as well, we've mentioned tonight a couple of times about the different versions of the original trilogy that exist. I do actually have a video which goes a little bit into some depth about some home media releases of Star Wars, where you can actually still get the original trilogy, although it is with a few caveats. But I'll let you watch that video to find that. I'll put a link at the end for that. If you want to get in touch with us here, you can do so at lswotcast@gmail.com, and you can indeed follow us on social media, lswotcast, as in let's see what's out there. You can also find us at Home Media Minefield. Obviously, this is the channel you're on now, so no need to explain that one. But please check out some of the other video streams and reviews, unboxings, all that sort of thing that we've got on here. I also have another channel, British Isles, which is EYLES, as in my last name. And you can see an anthology of some short films that I made there called The Urban Chiller Tales. Obviously keen for any feedback on that, would be much appreciated. And it would be without saying to say that I'm working with my good friend Mike Tack. We are working on our feature car cam, which hopefully we will have finished and completed by the end of this year. So yeah, please check all of that stuff out. But that just leaves me to thank my two guests for tonight. So Simon, Dan, both of you know that you're more than welcome on the show anytime. Anything you want to come and talk film and TV related, let me know. You've always got a place on here, and good luck with your projects in the meantime. And
thank you.
Thanks a lot, and thank you for watching. And we will see you next time on Let's See What's Out There. Bye for now.
Bye.